Hi, I am Myakishev-Rempel and I will talk about DNA resonance in telepathy. Dear fellow researchers, colleagues and friends, it is my honor to present at the International Conference on Science and Spirituality for Global Peace and Harmony, April 2025. I thank the organizers for the honor to speak here. We have reached a juncture in history where science cannot move forward without understanding the nature of consciousness. This is practically necessary for understanding artificial intelligence and the interaction between our consciousness and technology. Even more, the interconnectedness of humanity is increasing rapidly to the point where a new global collective interconnectedness becomes a powerful force. Moreover, the rapid increase in autism makes the question of consciousness very practically relevant. And here India has a great deal to teach us. Fortunately, information about traditional Indian culture and philosophy is now available in the West. The sacred and profound Indian philosophy was brought to us starting over a century ago by Helena Blavatsky, Carl Jung, and Swami Vivekananda, then by Yogananda, Schrödinger, Ram Dass, the Beatles, and Krishna Das. The key idea of the primacy of the universal consciousness was popularized in the West by Ram Dass, also known as Dick Alpert. And now it is the key to transformation, as the telepathy tapes by Kai Dickens became exceptionally popular and made the ideas of universal consciousness accessible to large masses of people. The telepathy tapes is an audio podcast that has been airing since September 2024. It explains in accessible forms the research on telepathy and the prevalence of high-level, high-precision telepathy among autistic individuals. Telepathy and mind reading are well known in India among the siddhis, special powers that some yogis possess. In the West, many testimonials from Westerners have been shared, detailing their experiences with mind reading by Neem Karoli Baba, the guru of Ram Dass and Krishna Das. The founder of Apple, Steve Jobs, traveled to India in search of meeting Neem Karoli Baba. He wasn't able to meet but was always motivated by Indian ideals. It might be a surprise to many that we are paying so much attention to telepathy, among other psychic psi phenomena, but I'm sure that telepathy should be the center of the research for two reasons. First, it is easy to measure, and second, it is the future of humanity. I'm convinced that telepathy will save humanity from many of the dangers it faces now and bring peace and kindness. It is because mind reading eliminates deception. Mind reading reveals the truth, and the power of mind reading is gifted only to kind people. So telepathy is a power that promotes truth and kindness. Scientific research on telepathy dates back over 100 years. Carl Jung researched telepathy especially in dreams. He said in 1933 letter, "The existence of telepathy in time and space is still denied only by positive ignoramuses." Here are a few starting points on telepathy reading. Powell documented exceptional telepathic abilities in non-speaking autistic individuals. Powell, Radin, and Sheldrake tested telepathy through controlled experiments. There is a practical need to go beyond the materialist dogma into the research of consciousness and spirituality. And that brings us to the transition from physics to metaphysics, which includes paranormal and psychic research. Great evidence comes from dream telepathy experiments by Ullman and Krippner in the 70s. Sleeping subjects received telepathic messages sent by remote awake participants. Strong evidence also comes from lab studies of average people. Large groups were tested under controlled conditions in many studies. These show modest effects but high statistical significance, and this provides compelling proof of telepathy. Some individuals possess exceptional telepathic abilities. They can transmit and receive information with high precision. This research exists but hasn't yet entered mainstream scientific journals. For diligent investigators, the telepathy tapes provides initial evidence. Further investigation reveals talented telepaths who demonstrate remarkable accuracy. I've researched telepathy since 2009 and had personal controlled observations that convinced me of its reality. So I believe the telepathy research of Jung, Radin, Sheldrake, and Powell is correct. Thanks to public awareness awakened by Kai Dickens, I hope that stronger evidence will emerge soon. Therefore, I will focus on potential mechanisms, assuming remote telepathy is real. Non-speaking autistic individuals communicate remotely with high precision through telepathy. This telepathy works across any distance with accuracy and ease. Telepathic autists form a telepathic network. From the prevalence of non-speaking autism, I estimate approximately 1 million individuals worldwide possess these telepathic abilities. These telepaths sometimes teach telepathy to neurotypical parents and teachers. Some teachers now conduct lessons for autists in silence. India has long recognized this phenomenon, respecting autistic individuals as enlightened beings with telepathic abilities. The West is only now beginning to awaken to this knowledge. Now biologists need to understand what it is and how it works. And here biological methods are insufficient. A typical biological experiment uses experimental subjects and controls. For example, in medical research, real drugs are compared to a placebo. In animal, plant, and bacterial research, there are treatment and control samples. But when biologists find out that telepathy can work remotely, they give up because you cannot have a pure control. The subject can potentially receive remote telepathic messages from billions of people. Telepathy and remote viewing tests were conducted in Faraday cages, underground, and even in submarines, underwater, where classical fields can't penetrate. Yet the information passes through all barriers. So we are not dealing with electromagnetic waves of sound. These are subtle, non-local phenomena. And for non-locality, there is a need for new methods. Paranormal research has been very thorough in developing new methods. But most of these methods aim to document and prove that the effect is real. When we come to the need to understand the mechanism, we need new methods, so we come to a need to combine experimental and intuitive research. It isn't new. In fact, most of the great discoveries were made intuitively. Great scientists received their insights through meditation. Isaac Newton, the author of Newtonian mechanics, employed alchemical methods and divination to gain insight. Carl Jung and Schrödinger studied Indian philosophy. Einstein used intuition to gain insights which were then experimentally tested. Many telepathy researchers are so fascinated by its non-local effects that they overlook another extraordinary fact: specific targeting. Meaning that telepathy is specific between sender and receiver. They send information only to each other, not to others. Also, Diana H. Powell explains in detail that in addition to a non-local component, telepathy has a very pronounced local component that involves brain anatomy and brain chemistry. Telepathy is greatly facilitated by achieving an altered state of consciousness. But some people can telepathically communicate in their normal waking state. Fascinating is the phenomenon of telepathy in non-technological tribes. Groups of Aboriginal hunters travel for days but maintain telepathic contact with the village. Why can they do it and we cannot? First, it is necessary for their survival. Second, they live a natural life uncomplicated by social lies and the necessity to block incoming junk messages. And third, there is a cultural tradition and acceptance. Luckily, thanks to Kai Dickens, cultural acceptance is entering the civilized world. How is it that telepathy is common among non-speaking autists? The main reason is that they are disconnected from society. Even normal children often possess psychic abilities until they become housebroken. The trauma of a civilized upbringing blocks our telepathy. To awaken telepathy, we must be free from social restrictions. This mellow, uninhibited state can be achieved in natural, protected environments such as ashrams, retreats, and festivals. Another very revealing observation is that non-speaking autists often display a split personality. Much of the time they behave as wild beasts, and once in a while they are occupied by a higher kind, an enlightened soul, a spiritual master. So there is a visible split between the lower and higher minds. Apparently it is the higher mind that is telepathic. Consider dolphins that also have a split brain. One half of their brain is asleep while the other half is awake. Similarly, Indian yoga teaches us how to remain asleep and awake at the same time. This half-asleep state is one of the keys to telepathy, intuition, and other psychic abilities. This trance, this altered transcendental state, can be explained with quantum physics. In the normal awake state, we pay attention to our surroundings and thoughts. In meditation, which means stopping thoughts and focusing on a point or defocusing our attention, we escape the space-time reality and shift to a timeless and spaceless state, where distance and distinction between individuals, this isolation from others, disappears. Such altered states are key to telepathy. Exiting local space and time enables non-locality and dissolves the separation between individuals. According to Heisenberg's uncertainty principle and Schrödinger's observer effect, when attention stops being egotistic, the wave function decollapses and delocalization is achieved. Our modern culture enforces the collapse of the wave function. We are trained to make up our mind at all times. The demand for certainty and control causes the failure of intuition and telepathy. So, a prerequisite requirement for telepathy is to relinquish control. That is what is making non-speaking autistic individuals telepathic. The non-local effects usually distract researchers. Once a researcher realizes the persistence of non-locality, they realize that typical research methods wouldn't work and they often give up. A better approach is to embrace duality. That means to accept that non-locality coexists with the material world and is intertwined with it. Telepathy has a dual nature. Telepaths have bodies that are grounded in a classical reality, and they routinely transcend time-space via non-locality. As I mentioned before, telepathy is dependent on brain anatomy and function, as Diane H. Powell explains. It is the ability of the brain to maintain an altered state, samadhi, that makes telepathy possible. Another necessary insight for researchers is the primacy of consciousness. It looks like there is a fundamental natural law that prevents experimentally proving the primacy of consciousness to society. We, as scientists, have to treat this as an unprovable hypothesis. Many arrive at the realization of this primacy via research and personal experiences. The materialistic model flips into a model of universal consciousness experiencing itself. The image of the snake eating its tail can be used to illustrate this principle. Our consciousness is a fractal fragment of the universal consciousness, and so is our body and all universe. There is nothing outside of universal consciousness. Space-time is a special case of universal consciousness, and in our classical material world, we are its fractal fragments experiencing life. These are the main principles. An illusion, Indian Maya, same as the matrix, protects itself. We experience time drag, something pulls us forward in time. Illusion of ego, separation and survival is created. All these principles are central to Indian tradition. These are not purely theoretical questions, but these are questions very practically needed for understanding human consciousness and telepathy. Most researchers stop the investigation after experiencing non-locality, either becoming intimidated or abandoning evidence-based science altogether. I propose continuing scientific inquiry by examining targeting specificity in telepathy. Note that talented telepaths receive specific messages only from intended senders, whereas poor telepaths cannot filter incoming signals and become overwhelmed by random messages. These principles lead us to the DNA resonance hypothesis. DNA resonance is supported by numerous convergent lines of evidence that collectively point to its existence, but lacks definite proof. Once proven, DNA resonance will explain many phenomena awaiting explanation. DNA resonance and telepathy represent scientific frontiers with breakthrough potential. These explorations advance human knowledge. Telepathy enhances connection. DNA resonance revolutionizes our understanding of biofields and medicine. Specifically, DNA resonance is needed to explain how the following phenomena originate biologically: illusion of space-time, illusion of free will, experience of time drag, illusion of ego, non-locality of telepathy, and specificity of targeting in telepathy. DNA resonance refers to vibrational synchronization. Just like antennas resonate to exchange signals, DNA may resonate to enable telepathy. Resonance is proposed to be sequence-specific based on individual genomic makeup. The key questions are: first, how are DNA and brain oscillations connected? And second, how is non-locality achieved? We propose that all DNA in the body forms a single vibrational system. Via nuclear membranes, microtubules, cell walls, and collagen fibers, vibrations are transmitted body-wide. Fascia serves as fiber optic biofield network. DNA exhibits a unique dual nature. Its width, 2 nanometers, positions it right at the quantum classical boundary, while its length, 10 centimeters in chromosomes, extends into the classical realm. At the sub-2 nanometer scale of base pairs, electrons and protons exist in delocalized quantum states, following Schrödinger's wave function. This dimensional structure enables DNA to function as a natural interface, with quantum properties, non-locality, bidirectional time operating at its core, while manifesting classical properties at the chromosomal scale. The DNA serves as a bridge between the timeless sub-nanometer world and the classical space-time. This is the key to understanding human consciousness and telepathy. The chromosome is a DNA molecule 2 nanometers wide and 10 centimeters long. On a sub-nanometer scale, it is intuitive, timeless, and spiritual. On the centimeter scale, it is logical, material, and digital. In live cells, DNA constantly dances as chromatin, a dynamic complex of DNA, proteins, and structured water. Our modeling revealed that water structure plays a crucial role in the chromatin dance. In our model, DNA imprints its sequence information into the surrounding water structure, creating a liquid crystal and integrating genetic information into structured water patterns. A part of this model was confirmed by analyzing chromatin folding in experimental data. So there is a dance of creation and destruction on the level of chromatin. This dance is the gateway for the spirit into the material world, the place of instability and the potential for seemingly random creation of new structures. It is the entrance of subtle fields into the cell. In this creative unstable dynamic process, subtle fields have the opportunity to guide the liquid crystallization of water around DNA and chromatin folding. This creates crystalline structures with specific periodicities corresponding to terahertz light frequencies. This also creates rotations and vibrations of highly charged DNA and histone proteins, which are integrated into the collective vibrational field of the body, contributing to our intuitive and logical thinking processes. This adds a DNA dimension to telepathy. The mind of the sender creates a message, delivers it through the brain and neurons to the DNA. DNA works as a gateway in the timeless spiritual world. The DNA of the receiver receives the message through the microtubules of neurons, creates vibrational patterns in the brain, and the receiver becomes aware of the message. The collective DNA vibration of the body allows specific message targeting. The receiver receives the message only from the sender, and vice versa. The genomes of the telepathic pair come into resonance and allow transmission. It is helped by the fact that all people are genetically related. In fact, we differ only by 0.1% of DNA, but these differences help specific targeting. So, when we analyze what blocks our telepathic abilities, we need to remove the blocks not only in the culture, not only in the brain, not only in the body but also in DNA. The way our DNA is folded and methylated reflects our culture and personal trauma. So the path to telepathy lies through clearing trauma from our DNA liquid crystal. Ultimately, the path to collective awakening goes through vibrational ecology. We need to purify our environment from chemical and electromagnetic pollution. Moreover, genetic modification of humans, which becomes a reality, should be considered in light of the collective DNA field. Excessive and illiterate genetic modification of humans is dangerous, as it could destroy our collective DNA field. Humanity should awaken to vibrational ecology and avoid the mistake of introducing vibrationally harmful genetic modifications into the population. In conclusion, I would like to thank my collaborators Richard Alan Miller, Ivan Savelyev, Michael Rempel, Oksana Poleskaya, and others. I thank the organizers for the invitation to speak and everyone for listening. All my publications are available as full text at dnaresonance.org/p. Thank you for listening.